think.
Hey, there we go. We are live for a new episode of the Electrek Podcast. I'm Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Winchell. How you doing today, Seth?
I'm good.
All right. I want to thank our sponsor, Electrify America, for sponsoring the show this week. We're going to have more to talk about them and what they're doing to accelerate electric vehicle transportation later on the show. But let's jump in, and we're going to switch things up this week. We're not going to start with Tesla news. We're going to start with Nikola Motors news because I think that's what a lot of people, the community, are talking about right now. And I know that Seth and I have been commenting a lot about it on Twitter. So a lot of this has been unfolding on Twitter. So if you're not on it, good for you. You're probably a healthier human being than me and Seth. But you've been missing out. You've been missing out on this fiasco unfolding. And I mean, we've been talking a lot about Nikola and the fact that we don't think the company has much credibility, and we haven't been reporting on them too much, especially since like they've been going public and everything, and it's becoming crazier and crazier. But now this week we sort of forced to get back into the Nikola story because of the big announcement that they're basically partnering with GM. And so that was announced on Monday or Tuesday. And the announcement, the partnership is strange to a degree. It at first it looks like it's more about the Badger itself, and it probably is. Like it's mostly about the Badger, which, if you don't know, it's that electric / fuel cell pickup truck that Nikola has been marketing. You see it here, and the deal itself is basically a supply deal where GM would supply the Ultimum. Is that how you pronounce it? Ultimum, the GM's battery technology?
Something like that, yeah.
I have it here. It's the... I keep misspelling it all the time, and my computer always tells me that you don't spell Ultimum like that. No, I don't. I'm not spelling Ultimum. I'm spelling Ultium battery.
Right.
And its own hydrogen fuel cell battery technology too. That's called Hydrotech. But they also talk about powering Nikola's other vehicle, including the Nikola 3, Nikola 1, Nikola 2, and the NZT, which is the entire really lineup. But it would start with the Badger. And on top of that, well, as part of the deal, GM received $2 billion in equity, roughly, like at least at the time. I don't know if it changes with if it was really at the time of the deal that was announced, or if it's changed with the value of Nikola, because the value of Nikola has been changing a lot. $2 billion in equity for the supply of those and the engineering and everything that comes with bringing those cars to the Badger to market. But of course, Nikola will also pay for this for the parts. But and they're gonna partner in this for supply cell for Nikola's Class 7 and 8 vehicles. That's the truck, the Nikola 1 and Nikola 2. Which, I mean, Nikola was at first like more like a trucking kind of like truck builder, but now it has spread out into a bunch of other things. And I'm not gonna read the quotes from Milton and from Mary Barra, but like they are obviously like very excited about this partnership. Things that they would kind of create a lot of value, and now basically making General Motors the second biggest, the biggest outside shareholder at Nikola. So a very deep partnership, really. But so when we reported on the news, of course, what we focused on is this. What's strange about the deal here is Nikola has been claiming that they have this breakthrough technology that they've been developing for years, especially at the battery pack level, and most recently at the battery cell level, even with that startup that they were apparently acquiring at late last year.
You should be clear. Like, they didn't show any evidence of this. They didn't have any like white papers, or it was just like, hey, we've got
claims. Yeah.
Right. It was just claims.
Yeah, they were all claims, and we were very skeptical about those, like when they were made last year, of course, too. But now it basically proved that they are nothing really when it comes to batteries, battery pack, even battery cell, because now they are completely going to rely on GM for that. And on the other side, on the fuel cell side, we knew that Nikola wasn't really gonna do much there either, because they were partnering with Bosch. But they were partnering with Bosch at first. They were like a co-development deal thing, but the further along it got, the more it looked like a purely supply deal with Bosch. And now they are completely going away with that, and instead going to be using GM's technology, at least for the Badger. But again, the contract also mentioned that future vehicles too. So complete change of direction for Nikola here. But then things got really crazy after another report came out from Edinburgh Research, who, to be fair, is short Nikola, but these guys have a pretty good track record. Like they're not short just to they do the research very well, and then they take a short position on a stock. So it's not like they're shorting Nikola and then they're trying to disparage the company. And the report that they came out with was based on evidence. It was all evidence based. They had proof in it. So we're going to get into that. But it's like you see in my headline here, it started really to crumble Nikola's sort of house of cards here. But I mean, the Edinburgh report is even like, I know, Seth, you were a big fan of their headline. What was their headline here? Nikola, how to parlay an ocean of lies into a partnership with the largest auto OEM in America. A bit on the long side, but still conveys that message very well.
Well, I mean, I think the big picture thing with Nikola is the fact that they've had all these claims for a long time. They've they even took you out on a jaunt with a vehicle that wasn't built by them. It was a Bosch.
It was a mixture of that vehicle really is a great example of what they were trying to the point they were trying to make in that report, where it's all about Nikola taking a bunch of off-the-shelf product, putting them together, and claiming like, we have this great technology that we build ourselves. Which, to a degree, like, yeah, you put it together and everything, but putting a prototype together and putting a vehicle that can put manufacturing together, it's a completely different thing. And I mean, it had like a Fox suspension on it, but like that's okay. Like not everyone's gonna make their own suspension. And then the battery pack was Bosch, but okay, Bosch was the manufacturing partnership. That makes sense. But anyway, that UTV never made it to market anyway. So
right. So I mean, the point of that thing was kind of to woo some like journalists like yourself and say, hey, look, we're the real deal. We're putting together different products, and we know how to make electric vehicles.
Yeah, definitely. And it worked for me, because I was already a bit skeptical about Nikola before that, especially because of, I mean, we didn't know much about them back then, but it was obvious that they were trying to ride on Tesla's success here, like copying the name, well, not copying the name, but like, of course, Tesla is named after Nikola Tesla, and they took the first name, they took the last name, and then Tesla launched Tesla Energy, Nikola launched Nikola Energy, and like they clearly copying the business model. But at that time, I was like, good, like copy the business model, like it's a good business model, and we need more Teslas out there. So that was fine. But then when I completely went off the wagon, get off the train, the Nikola train, was when they did that lawsuit with Tesla. They sued Tesla over some patent design that they had for their own truck, and they said that Tesla basically copied the design for the Tesla Semi based on 3 specific design aspects of the truck that they clearly didn't invent it. That they have been around for a long time. They have been on other constant trucks for a long time. It's just that they applied for the design patents, which not everyone does. Not everyone goes after design patent. It's not a functional patent. It's a patent about the design. And now that they had the patents, they just, all right, so we're gonna try to sue Tesla, which to me amounts to patent trolling. The product is not the product. The product is the patent, because that's what you're trying to make money off. And I called Milton by then, Trevor Milton, to explain to him that I'm like, I just read the whole lawsuit that you filed with, and I think that's clearly patent trolling. And he told me, I don't understand the lawsuit at all. And then he tried to explain to me, but it was like nonsense. So then I'm like, I cannot take your company. Like, oh yeah. At the same time, you're like, I have big news for you about Nikola that's coming out today. Like, do you want the scoop on it and everything? And I'm like, sorry, I cannot take you seriously if you're gonna just be a patent troll like that. And then that pretty much ended my relationship with Trevor, who I was friendly with before that. But then he went public, became a billionaire, and became a bit crazy with that. To be fair, like, I'm sure that would make a lot of people crazy, like getting into that ride. But the Inningberg report really showed this pattern of Milton making claims that are not true, that are deceptive, in order to just create partnership, hype, get investors behind the company and everything. And Bloomberg reported on that earlier this year, that like they broke down this claim that the truck here that they unveiled, the first Nikola 1, wasn't functional when it was unveiled on stage, even though Trevor was literally saying it was functional. He even claimed like it's not a pusher, like right there, but it was a pusher, like meaning that it's a prototype that you have to push on stage. But the biggest claim of all that was made in the Inningberg report, and it was backed by text message from an employee, and Inningberg finding the filming location of the first time that they release film of the prototype actually driving, actually working. And they claim that the reason where you can see it driving around is because it was towed up of a hill, of a slow grade hill. So it doesn't really look like a hill because it's only like 3 degrees of inclination, but it's a very long hill. So if you push the truck down the hill like that with just a 3% inclination for a while, it will gain some speed. And the video, of course, is very short, of just like once it's already gained some speed and everything. So they claim that they did that to show that. So even at that time, which was I think a year or two after the unveiling, that they still couldn't make that truck work. And
which is kind of crazy. Like, I mean, so it's not impossible. Like, you could get like EV West or some EV company to make a truck actually work on electricity. I mean, I know they're also pushing fuel cell, but like, if you wanted the truck to move, like, that wouldn't be rocket science to have happen. Like, they really were not working that hard on making that happen. And I this is all like, let's assume that this is all for show. Like, Trevor's game plan is like, we're going to create this fictitious company. We're going to do all these demonstrations, and then we're going to sell to GM or some other OEM and let them build the hardware, and we're going to be marketing it. And we're going to say, hey, make it look like this. And basically they're a design department at that point.
Design and marketing department.
Yeah. Marketing and
so I think that was always the goal, really. Like,
it had to be, because they knew they couldn't build it.
And so the Bloomberg report, like, I defended the author of it when it came out, because Milton was trying to sue him, and I had the same information for a while. Of course, I've stopped reporting on Nikola for a while, but I know the guy wants to stay anonymous, but I was able to verify him as a source that he actually worked on that truck back then. And here a good quote that he told me in a discussion about it. I was alarmed to hear lies flowing like water from Trevor as he toured the floor with investors and politicians. So he said that's all he was doing. Like, they were working on trying to make that prototype work with a very small team. He wasn't working for them directly either. Like, they were employing like other firms to work on that truck, because he was hiring his brother that like pours concrete in Hawaii as a nitrogen expert, a guy that managed a golf club, a golf course, as another expert. Like, it made no sense whatsoever. They had no expertise. They had some design expertise. Like, they hired like a legitimate designer from Iveco, I think. And so they had some expertise like that, but the engineer expertise was very low. So they were like, the consultants were doing what they could, but he told me that he saw Milton like having prospective investors on the floor and him walking around like, oh yeah, we just built this inverter right here, like, and the engineer is like, no, I just bought it off the shelf at the supply store. It's not your inverter. We have this drivetrain technology. No, it's a T4 like TM4 drivetrain. It's not ours. And all like it was common there, which is crazy to think that a few years after that, companies were like, no, well, a few, like those investors actually invested in it like pre IPO. Well, it's not even an IPO, like the reversed IPO, the going public, but pre reverse IPO, they raised hundreds of millions of dollars from legitimate investors, and so those people were fooled. But the customers were fooled, but they ended up reimbursing all the deposits anyway, so they never really lost anything. I still haven't heard from Budweiser about it. I reached out to Budweiser since all the things came out. I reached out to GM, reached out to Budweiser, and I'm like, well, what do you guys think of your order of 800 Nikola trucks now that you made like a few years ago, and now it looks like they don't even have any technology on it, and they're going to rely on GM to build it. I haven't heard from Budweiser about it. GM is not backing down with all this coming out now. GM is not backing down.
So it's interesting because the way they structured the deal, GM will get an 11% share of Nikola, which, what is that worth? But
a few billions right now.
Well, yeah, I mean they're worth 10 billion at the moment, and hopefully there was no cash exchange. But I just don't understand, like, where is all the value? Like, is the value in that, the brand and the marketing and the dream, like we're making these non-Tesla electric vehicles, but I don't understand why GM needs to go to Nikola and say, all right, we need to work with you. Like, we need your nameplate. We need your marketing expertise, because, you have nothing when it comes to drivetrains or fuel cells or anything. And frankly, like, the Badger it looks like a cool truck, but like
the design is cool, yeah, for sure.
But there's like literally no hardware. Like,
but there's no direction to it either. Like it's a truck with like a big battery pack, but all the specs that they released, that was pre-GM. That was pre-GM deal. Like now they're gonna have to work with the Ultium system. Can they deliver the same specs? And then they have, we have a range extender fuel cell technology. That has never been done. And also, a lot of people would argue that it shouldn't be done for a pickup truck. Like, it's you can do it just battery only.
Rivian's doing something like that.
Yeah, Rivian is doing a little like that. Tesla too, though, you could argue that Tesla is doing it with a completely different approach for a Cybertruck, with like, the design and everything that's different. And Tesla is like betting on efficiency, which probably won't happen for the truck with the form factor of the Badger. But still, what I think happened is that Nikola invested a ton of money in marketing the Badger very well. Like, if anything, Milton is a good marketing person. Like, he's good at marketing for sure. I mean, I've seen these hats for the Badger everywhere on Facebook, on Twitter, and everywhere you've seen those Badger hats. They
get like Shaq and like a bunch of other people to tweet out stuff.
Big influencer campaign around that. And then the biggest of all, was the Diesel Brothers, where like they have this big, is it Discovery show or anything on diesel trucks? And so they're big in the truck community. And they gave them an insane deal where for every reservation they bring in, they get a chunk of stocks. It's crazy deal that makes no sense whatsoever. So you do that, and you create this big marketing campaign, and I'm sure they got tens of thousands of reservations from it. So they can come to GM with that and like, yo, look, we have a big brand here. We can sell a truck if you help us build it. So like you said, they don't have to invest too much money in it, straight up, but I mean, they're not giving out $2 billion worth of stocks for nothing. Like, GM would have to invest hundreds of millions, if not billions, in making the production line prototype and everything for those trucks. Now, is it money that's completely lost if Nikola goes on there and they can just repurpose the production lines for their home trucks and like that? Maybe that's probably the silver lining in this if it goes that way, and I think it will, because like I posted on Twitter this morning, like I'm calling it now, like Nikola I think is done at this point. There's no salvaging it, because I mean, you saw that the report came out yesterday. Milton was claiming that he was, I'm going to rebuild the whole thing. I'm going to debunk all the claims and everything. And then this morning he said, I was working all night debunking all the claims. It's going to come out and everything. And I said it last night. It's not going to come out. Like he's not. There's too many claims in there that are impossible to debunk. The only one that, if it wasn't true, it would be super easy to debunk, is the claim of the video being faked about pushing the truck. You can just release an unedited version of that video.
Or show the truck on like normal streets, or just anything.
Well, but now the truck, they have a working prototype of the truck, so that's not the issue. They do end up with a working prototype of it at some point, like years later, that they said that they actually did have a working prototype. So the problem is the deception. Why did they need to have the deception at this point? And of course, when you do that, then you open yourself to just a slew of lawsuit from investors, which is inevitable or coming. I think you posted in the newsroom today, like that they already started investor. A law firm started an investor investigation into the claims. But yeah, you could just release an unedited version of that video. I'm sure they still have the footage, or maybe they deleted the footage for some reason. That would be weird. And he didn't do that. He didn't do that because probably he can't do that. So if he can't do that, then I would assume that at least some, if not all, of the claims in that report are accurate. And again, those guys have a good track record. That's what they do. Like, they find a company that's suspicious, they dig into it correctly, and come out with those things, which again, it wasn't like the biggest reporting ever. Like, it's been around for a while. We
almost all of that stuff has been public.
Yeah, we shared some of that before. Bloomberg had the report before. The craziest, the thing that no one had reported on before that I think was very good reporting from Hindenburg is that battery breakthrough that they talked about last year. Did you get that part?
Refresh me.
Okay, so Nikola, Trevor Milton claims this big battery breakthrough based on an undisclosed acquisition. And of course, we report on it. Take it with a big grain of salt. It's probably nothing and everything. We've never heard of that company, whatnot. And then Hindenburg posed that prior to even the deal with Nikola and the startup, the guy in charge of that company was indicted because his lab was hired by NASA, and he was using NASA money to finance trip with escorts and prostitutes.
Yes, that was amusing.
Yeah, so that was public knowledge just months before Nikola made their deal. So Nikola didn't even do their due diligence there with that deal. And of course, a few months later, Nikola, without telling anyone about, like, they had their big announcement, and months after the big announcement, they ended up suing the company that they were buying because they realized that the claims were nonsense, of course. But still after they were suing the company, Trevor was still touting their battery cells technology out there. Like, that's crazy stuff. Like, that's next
what's
level.
Even crazier is, like, the company to this day is still worth over $10 billion on the stock market somehow.
Because that's the problem with first of all, he owns a lot of it, so maybe, and now he sold a bunch of it. So first of all, unless like this goes to court and so someone gets him, he already made his chunk of money from it. And he sold over 70 millions of shares, so he already made a ton of money from it. But he still owns a lot of stock. So if he's not selling right now, that helps. And a bunch of retail investors that are still not convinced, like it's a bit like Tesla. You get like a cult-like mentality, and like, even in the most obvious evidence of deception, they don't want to get off of it. Of course, I'm not saying that Tesla had deception to that level before. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like the cult-like mentality. Like right now, if you came out with claims like that with Elon Musk, I'm sure that a lot of people would stick to their Tesla stock and everything. Like,
Right.
it's just this mentality that people have these days, with like tribe-like mentality. But yeah, it's sad for a few things. So, because again, I think this is all going on there at this point. It's like, I think it's going to be a domino effect, and we're going to see Nikola go away. It's sad because it was a clean tech company. Like, I don't think they were gonna ever amount to anything, but it's just people gonna use it as an example. I don't invest in clean tech because that's what happened. Even though like this is obviously a special circumstance, and I'm also sad for GM because what are they doing? Like, even like you said, if they're not that invested into this deal and everything, like I sent them the report, and I sent them the Bloomberg report, and I told them like we believe these reports to be accurate. Like we have information that shows this report are accurate. And GM's comes back to me, and we are fully confident in the value we will create by working together, meaning together with Nikola. We stand by the statement we made by announcing the relationship. So Hittingberg Research, which is I think two guys with a small, who were thinking about putting like a small short position on a stock, were able to come out with all this evidence on Nikola by doing their due diligence, based on like they were doing the due diligence because for a small position on it. GM is taking arguably $2 billion position, no matter how they're gonna pay for it with engineering work or cash. Like, that's not the point. They were taking a $2 billion position in Nikola, and they couldn't do just half that due diligence to realize like, maybe we shouldn't partner with that guy. It's sad, and I think I have to think that is due to them being so wanting to be relevant in the EV space right now that they were willing to overlook maybe some of those things, or not look at them at all, and make that deal.
Yeah.
Isn't that what Barra said too? You were on the call. She said something like that proves that GM is relevant in the space and everything.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of the crux of their pitch on doing the deal, which like to me is like, it just seems like there was no thought that went into it, no long-term thought, no obviously due diligence, but like, GM is complicated, and we can go down this road for hours, but like they had the Bolt in 2016. It was a good car. Like, it was a really good car, and they mucked it up. Like, they haven't done anything for 5 years now. We're coming up on 5 years of the Bolt, and the Bolt today is almost the same Bolt as 5 years ago. The only change is like LG came out with better batteries, just because that's what they improved stuff. And so it's got 6 more kilowatt hours of battery. But for the most part, it's the exact same car. GM has done nothing. And, they do have a pipeline coming of vehicles, but like, come on, you can't just not do anything in 5 years. Like, they could have had like a Bolt super speed with like, faster one. They could have had an all-wheel drive Bolt. They don't even have an all-wheel drive one coming up. So GM, it's quite frustrating. And now with this is going to kill their brand. This is going to make Mary Barra look like an idiot, and maybe that's deserved. But like, like teaming up with Nikola is like, it's like teaming up with a Solyndra. I mean, this is the Solyndra of electric vehicles.
Theranos.
Yeah, Theranos. It's a, like, you did no due diligence. You're not thinking. You're not, being smart. It's going to be a real stinker on the brand, and I don't know how they're going to get through this. It's like it's really unfortunate, because in 2016 things looked really good. I don't know what happened. Like, something went the wrong way. I mean, when it all comes down to it, it's Mary Barra and I guess Royce is the other guy. The president.
Can't keep up. Can't keep up with her.
But I mean, it comes down to those two, and
are you hoping that some heads will roll from this?
I don't want to make any enemies here, but like something needs to happen. because they're really going in the wrong direction. I mean, let's we're not even talking about like siding with the Trump administration on environment and all these other really poor mistakes that they've made over the last 5 years. But like, something's got to change if they're gonna go forward.
Yeah. All right, let's move on from Nikola. Enough Nikola for this week. Let's go into Lucid. It was finally the official launch of the Lucid Air this week. But of course, like if you've been following for the last few months, it's just been dripping information for a long time. So we already knew a lot about it. But the final production design is out, so you can get a good look at that now. The exterior is extremely similar to what we already seen in the past. Because of course, if you remember, back in 2018, they unveiled that car. 2017 actually, they unveiled the car, and it was supposed to come out the next year. Then they ran into some financial trouble. Then the Saudis came and they saved their asses. and
Saudi money.
Yeah, that Saudi money came. That good petrol money came in and saved them, which is good. I mean, now we have like a decent, very good competitor in this space that sure is founded by oil money, but the oil money is going to be there anyway. So if we're going to spend it on something, might as well spend it on that. And helped accelerate the transition. So yeah, the exterior is very similar to what they unveiled a few years ago. They refined it a little bit, and I think it looks sleek. It looks like a nice luxury sedan. Some angles it looks crazy flat though, like this one, right? Mm-hmm. Looks like someone like put like
smushed it,
like a panini or something, like a panini press, and put in a panini press a little bit and smushed it like this.
I guess that's how you get that low coefficient of drag. Like
it's a 0.21. Right, like that's impressive. Has to do something. They have a strange like trunk opening. It's good. Like it's a big one, but to make it that big, they had to have like a unusual line for a trunk opening. So that's clearly apparent on the white one. On the other color, it's not that big of a deal. But I like it. I think it looks very nice. The interior, I think that's where the car really shines, though. It's extremely refined. Materials look very good, extremely luxurious material. Like, and that's going to be Lucid's challenge here, because they are a newcomer in the industry. They don't have a big brand name like the BMW, the Teslas, the Mercedes of this world, the Audis. And they're going to try to sell you $100,000+ car. That's extremely difficult. Like no one has done that since Tesla. And it was tough for Tesla at first, as you know. Now, the fact that Tesla did it, though, might help them. Like, so you know that like it's doable. You can deliver a premium car if you're a newcomer. But a lot of people that buy $100,000+ cars, they like to say that, oh, I have a BMW, I have a Audi, and now Tesla is the same level. Like Tesla is what they call it, a status car. Is that the expression? Status car.
Yeah.
Like a car that shows your status as a rich bastard. And but in terms of the design, it's there for that. I think it has the potential of being a status car. Like look at the materials here that they're using. It's beautiful. They have this extended roof, like Model X roof almost. Very, very cool on that. The screen here, they have a center screen here where you have all the controls for like the HVAC and everything, and the seats and whatnot. That's retractable, and then it well, you see it here too. And once it's retracted, you have some room here to put like a bag or something. But the main screen with all the control is that giant curved instrument cluster in the front that I think is also beautiful. The back seat has changed a lot from the concept that we saw last year. That was a lot more like executive level, though I'm sure they might have that option in the future because it was cool looking. It's toned down in the production version, as you see here, but you still have that giant panoramic roof there. Look like a lot of space. Ooh, my voice just cracked right there. Still good looking interior, in my opinion. Look at that. Beautiful. This California inspired. You can see that especially in the tones of the different designs. They have a few for the Dream Edition. You see the screen here when it's lifted up. You have access. I very well executed in my opinion for the design. For the specs, now we have the final specs here, and we have them per different models of the hair. So the one that achieved the 517-mile range in the test was the Air GT, the Grand Touring version. This one is not going to be the first one to come. The first one's going to be the Dream Edition. That's like the special limited edition. This one's going to have 503 miles of range, so just a little bit short of the new same market leading 515, and that depends on your wheels too. So that's if you take the 19-inch wheels, but the Dream's also going to be available with the special Aero Dream wheels, 21 inches, but that will drop your range to 465 miles of range, which would be hard to complain, really.
Right, but you get over 1,000 horsepower with that one. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. So that the Dream Edition also comes with a bigger powertrain with over 1,000 horsepower. So that's where you get the 9.9 seconds quarter mile time and 2.5 seconds 0 to 60. That's with that. Coming in Q2 2021, around the same timeline, but shortly after, the Grand Touring is going to be available. Then you have the Touring version that's going to drop the range to 406 miles. So that's just a little bit, tiny bit more than the current mileage of the Model S. 3.2 seconds, 0 to 60, 11.4. So that's a little bit slower. Q4, that's coming at the end of next year. And then they're going to have the base version that's just called the Air. It's going to start below $80,000. So half the price of the Dream Edition. But on all those pricings are before incentives, of course. They haven't released the range for this one, but if the Grand Touring starting at 95,000 is starting at 406 miles, I would assume something probably closer to 350 or something like that, which put it in like the Model S kind of specs. They are achieving that at least with the GT and the Dream version, and they haven't released the battery pack capacity for the Air and the Air Touring. It's on the 113 kilowatt hour battery pack, all equipped with the 19.2 onboard bi-directional charger. So that's cool. You're gonna have this feature that Tesla doesn't have yet, so that's good. So yeah, I mean, I was impressed with the final look at it. It's gonna draw a lot of comparison to Tesla, of course, because it is in the Model S segment. And but what I find most interesting now is just 1 year ago, if you had $100,000 to spend on an electric car, it was a Model S. You were going to spend it on a Model S. Now, just a year later, if I had $100,000 to spend on a car, it'd probably still be the Model S. But I would have to consider the Air. I would have to consider the Taycan.
Yeah, Taycan's tough. If you've got $100,000 laying around,
yeah,
Taycan's not a bad thing to pick up.
Certainly, though the problem with the Taycan is like if I decide to buy a Taycan, it's gonna cost me more than $100,000. I'm gonna go with the options and everything, and Porsches like to make you spend on those options. But same thing with the Air too. Like you're gonna want to go the Grand Touring probably, getting that crazy range if that's what you're into. And I mean, there's some usefulness to having that kind of range, for sure. But yeah, so I think Lucid's problem right now is that if the car was on the market today, they would be no doubt the market leader. Like they have all the best and latest technology out there. Problem is that it's not coming for another 8 months or something, like six to 8 months.
Right, and this month, Battery Day for Tesla, and
yes.
And it sounds like there's going to be some updated specs on the batteries, and there's a good chance
for the Model S too. Yeah,
right. There's a good chance that Elon's going to blow this stuff out of the water.
I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, especially since like it's the higher spec version of the Air that are interesting,
right?
And we're talking about the. At this point, I would be surprised if on Battery Day, it's not next week, but on the 22nd, if on Battery Day Tesla doesn't unveil the plaid version of the Model S or the Palladium version of the Model S, whichever it's going to be. It might be like the new Palladium with plaid kit or something like that. But either way, the new higher end version of the Model S. So, and I think that it would be extremely competitive with those specs, maybe even beating those specs. And then the real kicker is that if Tesla finally updates the interior of the Model S, because right now I don't think it's competitive. I think the interior of the Air is way ahead of Tesla. The only thing is that if you bundle in the interior design with the user interface, which I think you should because it's a big part of it, and Tesla's user interface, in my opinion, is industry leading right now, and we don't know exactly how fun to use, how good to use is the user interface of the Air just yet. Like we see a lot, but I talked to Peter Rawlinson earlier this year when we went to the Bloomberg thing in SF. And that's something that I emphasize a lot with him. I'm like I love you guys, what they're doing. I love your approach. I love what Peter Wilson is talking about efficiency in electric cars. The way he's talking, like he's like, don't be fooled by our high range stuff. He's big on the difference between smart range and dumb range. Just putting big batteries is dumb range. Focusing on efficiency is smart range. Love this stuff. But I told him at the end of the day, you cannot compete with Tesla if you don't like hire like top of the line user interface people and just make it like high pad, like Apple level of intuitiveness. Is that a word?
Yeah. So I mean, what did you think of Elon's tweet? Kind of like, speaking of Peter Rawlinson, he kind of disparaged his role at Tesla, and in so doing was kind of disparaging Lucid, I thought.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about. I think because I think it's more what the way, because he was responding to a Tesla Ready article, and I think Tesla Ready stated that Rawlinson designed the Model X or something like that. So he specifically said that Rawlinson didn't design it, which is accurate to say that. So like it's not really disparaging. But you're right that it might have come from a place to like just talk down Rawlinson's role involvement with the Model S, which I think is not fair because he was at Tesla for like 2 years as the chief engineer of the Model S program in a very important time to design the Model S. But I wouldn't be so quick to just say that Elon was trying to disparage him because he also gave him credit for like doing good things with the chassis of the Model S and everything. So I don't know. I'm not so sure about that. But yeah, I mean, Rawlinson, if you're gonna doubt that Rawlinson is not a good automotive engineer, then like I cannot talk to you. Like Elon, like he's obviously good at what he does, and I think the Lucid Air is a great example of that. And this is not vaporware; like it's been tested by third party company, like the range and everything. So it's legit. Now. You need to bring it to production. It's nothing until it's in production. They are aiming again for Q2 2021. I think it's achievable at this point because the factory is done, or at least it's the shell of it. The buildings are done. So now they are deploying the production lines and everything. So giving them like 6 months to deploy the production lines is reasonable, I think, especially since they've been working on it for a long time. They just didn't have the money to place the orders for the machines and everything. So I think, and they have good people in manufacturing too. So including former Tesla people. So yeah, I'm optimistic at this point about Lucid and about the Air. Very optimistic.
All right. Before we go to the next thing, we should talk about our podcast sponsorship. So I'll read that real quick. This episode of the Electrek Podcast is brought to you by Electrify America. EA is the nation's largest coast-to-coast electric vehicle charging network with stations every 70 miles on average along major highway routes and full of ultra-fast 350 kilowatt chargers for capable electric vehicles. They are dedicated to providing electric vehicle drivers with the speed, security, and freedom they deserve. Like freedom from range anxiety, freedom from boredom as they wait too long for a charge, and of course the freedom of the open road. Even if that open road is just one nearby, they believe in the electric future just like you. If you're an electric vehicle driver or just wondering what it's like to be one, find out what they're up to at electrifyamerica.com. That's electrifyamerica.com. Electrify America, hello freedom.
Yes, hello freedom. And I think there's going to be some good news coming about Electrify America next week that we're going to be able to talk about probably on the next podcast. I cannot reveal it right now, but I think it's something that everyone in the community wants to see happen. Where we at? Are we going to talk about Tesla?
Oh, wow. 45 minutes in.
That's not bad, right? Well, we did touch the subject a few times, probably. Surprise this morning, it came out a report from Bloomberg and Reuters, both reporting that. So if they both on it, seems likely, in my opinion. They're reporting that Tesla plans to export the Model 3 made in China, which is something that Elon specifically said they wouldn't do. Bloomberg says that China-built Model 3 intended for delivery outside the country will likely start mass production in the fourth quarter. The people said, asking not to be identified because details are private. They said that the market targeted includes Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, as well as Europe. So it's not just vehicle around like the few markets that we thought would make sense. Like Australia definitely would make sense. Singapore would make sense. Like Asia and Pacific region would make a ton of sense. But apparently they also want to bring it to Europe. So it's significant production. They're talking about mass production too. They said that the shipment could start as soon as the end of this year or early 2021. So if you remember, when Tesla announced a deal for Gigafactory Shanghai, that was at the midst of like arguably the peak of the trade war with China. So it was a big subject because Elon was very trying to appease concern that Tesla was like shifting production capacity to China or anything like that. So he made it clear several times that the Model 3 and Model Ys that are going to be produced in Gigafactory Shanghai are for the greater China. And at that time, it was even saying that the higher like Model S, Model X, 3, and Y version, like the performance version, would be produced in the US and shipped to China, which of course is not the case anymore. Tesla is making the Model 3 Performance in China for the Chinese market. But I mean, everyone forgave Elon for that because it happened in the midst of the pandemic and Fremont factory was shut down. So of course, it makes sense to start producing the Model 3 in China. But it's still the case now after they started production again in Fremont. But again, that's obviously forgivable. Now it's a different thing. Like I personally, I'm not against it. Like I'm definitely not an anti-Chinese manufacturing person at all. Like I don't think that manufacturer only goes to China because it's cheaper. I think it's obvious that they have like an expertise in manufacturing now that a lot of places don't have. They're good at it. They manufacture good stuff. They don't only manufacturing good stuff, but like they manufacture everything. So of course there's cheap stuff too. But I'm more concerned about so why are they doing that specifically? Because we thought that the Chinese demand would double everything that Gigafactory Shanghai was going to produce, right?
Yeah, certainly.
So either the demand is not as big as we thought it would be, or the production capacity significantly increased, one or the other.
Yeah, wasn't there a report out of China that the Shanghai factory was going to double in size? Or Tesla was planning?
Double in size for Model Y production. So all the new buildings and everything double in size, but that's for they're specifically talking about Model 3s here, made in China Model 3s. Mm-hmm. And new drone shots of the plant this week show that Tesla has a ton of inventory there, but it looks like they're shipping it out. So it's not like they're sitting on it or anything. But yeah, at the end of last quarter, they were already reporting a capacity of 200,000 cars per year. So yeah, maybe they are tapping into the limit there, and they want to ship it somewhere else, or I don't know.
I mean, so if Tesla is finding that they can make a high quality, and remember the made in China Model 3s are like getting really good reviews, and whereas the made in the US ones are getting not so great reviews in terms of like fit and finish. And the cost like per car is less in China. Like Tesla's got to be, the bean counters are probably saying to themselves, why are we sending them from the US when better cars are cheaper to make in China, which is kind of scary long term, because like if Tesla's keeps going in that direction over a few years, like why build them in Fremont when the Shanghai factory can make them cheaper and better?
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. Let's talk a little bit about the Tesla stock this week. It took a massive downward trend. Started a massive downward trend, and it started basically last Friday, because right after the podcast, the news came out that I frame everything with a podcast. It either happened before or after the podcast last week. Oh boy, what's happening with my face? It's super red now. Is it because of this?
I believe it's the web browser.
Yeah, it's reacting to like the red of the thing. I don't know. My camera is acting weird right now. The S&P did the quarterly reshuffle, and Tesla was highly anticipated to be included in it because of the big increase in value. And of course, the S&P 500 is trying to track the biggest companies in the US, and Tesla is like top 10 biggest company in the US. So obviously it's going to make the top 500, right? Nope, it doesn't. But of course, the S&P has other requirements and everything. But Tesla was officially the completed all those requirements. The 4 quarterly profits in a row, certain amount of revenue, and of course the market valuation. But they weren't included. Instead, Etsy, Teradyne, and Catalent were included. At the time of the announcement, all those three company valuation combined was worth 1/9 of Tesla. That's something. So it's strange for sure. But at the same time, Tesla could be included not in the usual quarterly reshuffle. Sometimes the S&P committee, the index committee, will just pluck out a company and put another one in at another time. So that might happen here. We don't know. But it started a big downturn for Tesla's stock price. I don't know how much it closed today. I haven't been following much.
I think it was pretty close to even.
Yeah, it was up for a while today. I saw, but it closed up at 372 right now. A valuation of $347 billion. So still pretty crazy. But it went down at one point after the announcement that they weren't included in the reshuffle, like 15% here on Monday. And it was down to around $300 billion. So, but it ended the whole week, so opening at $389 billion and now being worth $347. It lost $40 billion in value in a week, so it's no joke. No joke at all. So yeah, that's a big part of it. But I mean, you have the big catalyst coming in less than 2 weeks with Battery Day. I wouldn't want to be short during Battery Day. That's my impression right now.
Yeah, it does sound like there's going to be some monumental changes or monumental announcements.
Yeah, and Elon tweeted today that he's going to have many exciting things to be unveiled the Battery Day. So we have, it's very likely now, it's not just going to be about the batteries, it's going to be what the battery is going to enable. So I wouldn't be surprised if, the Plaid shows up, but even maybe like a Roadster update, a Tesla Semi update.
I mean, Plaid is kind of what you need to make the Roadster, right? So that would make sense.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So an updated Roadster would make sense too. But then I think the real, like, something that would actually be like a needle mover would be completely updated interior exterior Model S and X, which is overdue, I think. And you would just relaunch those programs who were not doing well right now. And I mean, I know they don't bring as much money as Model 3, Model Y, but they still can do some decent numbers. And if you bring in all the manufacturing expertise that Tesla acquired with the Model 3, Model Y, and you apply those, and I think that's what they're doing. That's when we reported on the Palladium, they are updating the body and everything. So I think they're going to use what they learned to improve the manufacturing of those bodies and chassis. So if you do that, you can probably increase the profitability of those programs a lot, and that would be a big deal. So yeah. Last piece of news on Tesla this week. we got some tiny bit clearer schedule for Gigafactory Texas. Tesla released as part of a new presentation for the county that they plan for a first dry-in December 30th. Dry-in would mean that they have a building that's protected from the elements, so like an enclosed building and everything. So by the end of the year, what they call first substantial completion on May 1st. So substantial completion would mean that they can actually use it for production. Doesn't mean that production would actually start that month, but maybe like pre-production or at least some degree of production. But yeah, the progress hasn't been as fast as we expected on that project. Like they have a lot of grading to do. That's what they're doing right now, and it is a big piece of land, of course, and they want to build a very big building on it. But it's also like there's a swamp there. Like there's a bunch of things on there that they had to fill in and to before they put the foundations. But yeah, still an ambitious goal. May 1st. All right, we had a few news that we want to discuss real quick too about Uber. Uber announced this week their plan for going all electric. They want all their rides to be electric by 2040, and they are investing $800 million over the next 5 years to make that happen. Of course, we're not that impressed by that. 2040 is not really the Electrek timeline for electrification. It's about 15 years too late. But still, if you look into what they're doing, I think there's some value to it. But with a big asterisk, I'm going to get into it. So the four main points here: expanding Uber Green to make it easier for rider to choose travel in hybrids or EVs. So that's something that you could do, but only in a few cities. Or you can order like Uber X, Uber XL, and Uber Green, Uber Select. Like you have too many Ubers, but Uber Green there wasn't that many options. You couldn't get it all the time, and also it was a little bit slower to get sometimes because, of course, you need a guy that has an hybrid or an EV. Now they're expanding the program. They're gonna have more drivers on it, and it's gonna be in 15 more U.S. and Canadian cities. It costs an extra $1, and that's the big kicker here. So because for this whole thing to work, you're gonna have to have people order the Uber Green. So my hope is that Uber would put it like first option, because I don't mind paying $1 more for it.
Default, maybe.
Come again?
Like a default, if you're
default. That's what I meant. You're right.
Yeah, like you just order, and if you've ordered a green before or whatever, then it just that's the default.
Yeah, you get for the rider, the incentive is you, because you pay $1 more per ride, but you get 3 times the Uber rewards, and of course you get an hybrid or an electric car. I would note that it's probably like a cheaper way than Uber Select to get like a better car, though.
Right.
Because, like if you take Uber X, like sometimes you can have some really sketchy cars that you get into. If you get Uber Select, which sometimes I would use, especially since like I have good Uber rewards points, like you can get it cheaper. You get a bigger car, which is a better experience, of course. But electric cars are more recent and everything, so it could be less expensive than Select, and you still could get a better car.
Right. You're not going to get a car with like, a muffler that's falling off and making loud noise, and the tires are all out of balance.
Exactly.
I've had some messy cars on Uber.
Yeah. Me too. I've been with you in some of those. On the driver's side, so that's where it gets important. So they want to get the drivers to buy electric cars and use them on the network. So that's has been a difficult part so far. So on the driver's side, what they're doing is that the drivers for the hybrids, they get like 50 more cents. Okay, that's not a big deal, but for they get 50 more cents directly from the rider. So 50 cents of that dollars go for the rider from either way. But if it's all electric, zero emission, you get another $1 for every trip from Uber. So that adds up to for all electric car, that adds up to $150 more per Uber Green trip. And that's a kicker, though, because sometimes drivers we have in electric cars will be giving trips that are not Uber Green trips, even though they have an electric car, because the person didn't order a Uber Green, but because of the routing system of Uber, it just makes more sense to send that car in. So you end up getting that trip, but you won't get that $1.50 extra. So the really important thing of this whole thing, like I think, because I think it can make sense. It can make a ton of sense. You get 10 rides a day. That Uber Green, that's $15 more a day. You do that 20 times in a month. That's $300 more in a month. That covers a Bolt TV lease, easy. Easy.
And Chevy or GM announced that they were doing something with Uber this month as well. So
yeah, as part of the announcement, so so they have a 800 million in resources for drivers to transfer to EVs, and they are building relationship with manufacturers. So GM is one of them, and they're making the Bolt EV available to Uber and drivers for the employee price, which is like $3,000 less, I think, on the Bolt EV. So it's a decent difference.
Significant.
Yeah. So you had that. You had the fact that right now, like I think there's a $7,000 discounts on the Bolt TV that they're doing until the end of the month.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you can get a Bolt for like $20,000.
Yeah, almost like in California and in places like you have $3,000 or $4,000 of discount. Of course, GM doesn't have the federal tax credit anymore, but you can get it for around $20,000 or less than $200 a month if you do a lease.
And if you think about it, if you're an Uber driver, $200 a month, and you're paying less per mile, already, and then you have on top of that theoretically getting $1.50 extra per green trip. Like it's a wonder that anybody uses anything besides a Chevy Bolt. Or
that's what I'm driving at. Like it makes a ton of sense with it. It makes a ton of sense as long as people start using that Uber Green trip thing, and I hope they will. Because
I think another thing Uber could do, though, like, because obviously Uber drivers aren't like flooded with money for a down payment. Maybe they don't have great credit. Maybe Uber could start buying the vehicles for the drivers. Not any driver. Maybe the guy or woman who's been driving for like 5 years has tons of
that'd be cool. Yeah, and high reviews.
Yeah. So I think that's maybe like the next step that they should take.
Yeah, but that's what like Maven was doing with GM and Maven. They were like they had a lease deal basically made for ride sharing driver, ride hailing driver. Of course, that went belly up, but if it was done on the Uber side or the Lyft side, I think that would make a ton more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in short, I like the approach and everything. I don't like the goal of 100% by 2040. Like Lyft has the same goal by 2030, which I think is better. But yeah, going the right direction at least.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have some questions?
We got quite a few. And by the way, we did kind of a soft launch. We're on Facebook now, so you'll see some Facebook questions in here, which I don't think that YouTube people can see. So we'll just have to put them up on the screen here. So Sean Peterson asked, what would be a good beginner e-bike for $500? That's not very much money for an e-bike. I'm reviewing this Anchier set of bikes right now that'll probably go up this weekend. They're $600 each. They're not amazing. Kind of like, if you had to reach into the parts bin for like the motor or for the everything, you're kind of reaching into the least expensive. But it'll get you around. My recommendation, if you have a $500 budget, is get something used, or get a loan or ask mom and dad for $500 more and get like a juice bike or a Saunders or a Rad Power bike. They started around $1,000. All right, let me skip down a little bit. Nikola's art department has some talent. Maybe they will turn into an advertising company. Yeah, I don't value that at $2 billion though. That's the problem.
Yes, definitely.
All right. So has Nikola ever showed for real that they have tech? GM is taking a huge reputation damage risk. I don't understand them. Am I missing something? Your view. Yeah, that's kind of our view too, is it doesn't make any sense to us. All right. Miles Davis. Probably not the one you're thinking of. Do you think that Tesla Semi disrupting the trucking industry? You think truck drivers are willing to adopt to technology that could potentially be stealing their jobs in the future? What do you think?
Well, I mean, Tesla, when they unveiled the Tesla Semi, which again, that was a while ago, and they already had the autopilot technology then, but they made it clear that they weren't going full self-driving with the truck. So they weren't taking the truck driver out of the equation. Unfortunately, even if that happens, if they go self-driving, I mean, the truck drivers won't have a say in it. Like there's some driver operator that owns their own truck and everything. That's definitely something. Those guys would probably won't, or maybe they will. Maybe they will own their own self-driving truck and just manage it instead, become their own like tiny trucking company, like they already are. But the people that will drive the cells, of course, are the trucking businesses, and once they see a potential to go self-driving, they will just take it no matter what. So you have to look really at the Tesla Semi first as an electric truck, not really as a self-driving truck. And just on that, they're definitely going to disrupt the trucking industry just by lowering the cost of operation of the truck significantly. Yeah, I think that's going to be a big deal. I'm hoping actually for the battery day to also be like a Tesla Semi update, maybe update the battery in the Tesla Semi, release the new production specs since we're closer to production now too.
Right. Yeah, they really should just upgrade update everything across the board. The one thing from I wanted to say this before, but the one thing from the master plan part 2 or do was that they've talked about every single vehicle on there except for like the minibus or the bus or the whatever. So maybe something about that would be nice to hear.
Yeah, and we did hear the Boring Company thing, that the rumor that came out, that so that might make sense.
All right. Somebody with a Greek name says GM and Maribara may grab the $2 billion and run. So what? All right. I don't think
that'd be crazy. They make the deal and they just sell all the share right away. And you know what? That's not impossible with you, because I've looked into the requirements for selling share that Trevor put on himself, and it's ridiculous. Like he changed the whole thing, and you can sell share like much faster than most other executive and everything. So if they did the same thing with GM, they might just do that, which would be hilarious.
Pump and dump.
Yeah.
GM. Well, I would give Mary Barra credit for that. That would be thinking outside the box.
She would be screwing over a ton of retail investors, though, because I don't think that would be legal, actually.
Right. All right.
Because if she says like, it's a good deal, and then we love the value that we're creating with them, and they just I meant the value that we're creating for us by selling the shares,
right?
Not to investors of Nikola Motors.
All right. Reputation damage is way higher than $2 billion.
That's the whole point. Yeah, that's the whole point.
Because
I got a lot of people that are telling me like why I'm being so hard on GM with this, because they're not really losing that much money in that part of the deal. That's not the point. They look stupid. They look dumb doing that. They look like they don't know anything about electric cars, and they're just like throwing darts in the dark,
right?
Trying to hit something.
Yeah, especially when they have what seems to be like, what we've been led to believe is like a good platform coming.
Yeah.
And the Hummer seems like and we saw a bunch of other vehicles. All right, let's move on. Andrew Hartley, do you worry about Trevor going after you? I don't think anyone you wrote was out of line. It seems like vaporware to me.
I'd be shocked if I get a lawsuit from Milton at this point. I think he's not gonna bother with.
You're like number 600 on his list right now.
Yes, and even then, like. Yeah.
All right.
And you saw the like Citron Research too was big short too. They said they're gonna back Hittingbird if they get hit by a lawsuit. So I think they're gonna add a handful if they attack Hittingbird, because probably also Hittingbird probably made a good amount of cash in the last 2 days since the report came out too on their short position. So they're gonna be able to defend themselves against Nikola.
Yeah, do you think that's a good business model, like going forward? Like you see a company like Saline, and you say, well, hey, they're all full of, it's all a house of cards.
Yeah,
And
of course. Like if you're a good researcher, that's a
right,
great business model. I mean, I could have made a ton of money on the Saline thing. It's just I didn't even want to because it originated from their lies about Tesla, and I was just like a Tesla fan trying to say, "Hey, this doesn't add up to me." But like, if I wanted to short them and make some money on them, like the stock went to zero, so I
right.
would have made a ton of money on that.
All right. Let's see. Environmentally safe trucks that run down from hills. Some genius Trevor should get a patent too. All right. Actually,
I want a patent on gravity.
well, it shows that the truck was aerodynamic, I guess, that
Yeah.
it went down very fast.
Oh, but Edinburgh they used the same route, and they just started like with a small SUV like a Hyundai, and they got to 58 miles per hour with
Right.
the SUV. Imagine a truck with a load in the back. They had a trailer
Right.
on it. You can get that truck running.
Yeah. All right. John Mulford says last time GM did anything smart, LBJ was in the White House. Why does GM being involved in this give it a stamp of legitimacy? It really doesn't, but like, man,
For some
like,
people, it does for sure.
yeah, and like I keep going back to like 2016. Like it seemed like GM had like learned its lesson from the EV1. Like don't get out of it, electric, and they just keep going back and forth.
It's crazy.
So, a few key articles on SPACs recently. Seems like printing money for them right now. Boss Music says, I demand to know who your sources are in New Jersey.
What did we wrote about New Jersey lately?
I'm not sure.
Nikola is Arizona and Utah back then.
John Mulford, even the name Nikola is a vaporware squirt on Tesla. Vapor squirt. I don't know what that means.
I don't know. It sounds cool.
I hope I'm not saying something that's inappropriate. Let's start a company called Lieutenant Colonel Motors. It's almost General Motors, but we don't make anything. All right. I mean, yes, Nikola is Theranos.
Yeah, there's been a lot of comparison about that with Theranos.
But I mean, they've been outed already. Like Theranos, like for the longest time, everybody was like, and nobody, at least publicly, was saying anything, negative about Theranos.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Nikola has been out of the bag for a long time.
Right.
It's just that Edinburgh did like they brought like actual evidence with text messages and emails and everything.
Right. All right. John Mulford says Theranos never went public. The only people that got Therarammed were VCs who should have known better. This company has screwed retail investors. Mary Barra has drive shafted GM shareholders.
That's a good point.
Yep. Nikola needs to increase revenue. There is no revenue.
Yeah.
Trevor may have to buy more solar cells this quarter. Okay.
Yeah, that was a good one. Trevor claiming that they have solar on the roof, but they just don't. Right. Why lie about that?
I honestly it seems like he's pathological at this point. Everybody's forgetting bad publicity is good publicity, rule of thumb, or I think that the thing is no such thing as bad publicity. GM's really putting that to the test here, though, I guess. Yeah. And Enron is a good example. Even if everything that Trevor said was a lie, the market has given them a big pile of money, and they might be able to deliver on some of those claims. That is a good point. Like, if this was Trevor's plan all along, like he did it. Like he basically just threw up a bunch of images and said, "Hey, this we're a company and we're doing electric stuff," and basically he got GM to make the vehicles for him, and he's like he did it. Like if
but that's the problem is that's illegal though. Like you cannot lie about capacity and have investor invest based on those lies. So if you get caught, like you get sued either way, and you're in trouble.
And that's what readers are saying. Alexander Nepoli says the same thing. Nikola also needs to pay $700,000 for GM production line too. Appears no risk to GM at all.
There's some risk to GM. I mean, they're gonna lose a lot of time and money on the engineering of this powertrain for the truck.
Trevor's tweets were deleted since June 2nd. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he's very Trump-like on Twitter. Like his use of Twitter is it's pretty hilarious.
When did Nikola IPO? They did a reverse IPO earlier this year, June 3rd, I guess. Nikola is a clear fake. That's a hell of a coincidence. Yes, GM didn't see this. That's a huge negative for them, and will cost them a lot more than $2 billion. That's what
I think so. Unless, like, the silver lining in my post about that was maybe like that's gonna be what gonna push something. Like they're gonna do. All right, that was bad. Like let's fire some people that were involved in this and then start fresh, because our EV approach, if we are down now to partnering with Nikola, is like it's not a good one.
Right. Like let's put $2 billion in marketing, or let's put $2 billion in creating a separate, like what they kind of got from Nikola was like a separate entity to sell their vehicles. Why not just make a brand?
There's demand for that. A lot of people are pushing for that. Just
right. Like, I mean,
maybe not Ultium though. Maybe not Ultium.
No, not that. But like,
Hummer, I would be fine with it. Bring the Hummer back. Like it's also like
as a brand, like
Hummer full circle. Like the biggest gas guzzler ever is now like big EV brand.
Sure.
No, isn't it like a sexual connotation to Hummer too? I think.
Well, Hummers are,
like it's not.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not. It's like. Yeah, it's not. It's not a great name either. Never mind. I said that.
All right.
Fine.
01010 says, and then they pay off the lawsuits with a small percentage of their cash. To be clear, I'm not endorsing them. Just saying Fred is not right when he says this is the end of Nikola. I mean,
okay, but at the end, well, what I'm saying is the end is like they have nothing in that company. Like it's a branding company that's based on deception. So if they might have like how much they raised with the IPO, the reverse IPO, like 700 million and something like that. They're gonna burn through that, and then what?
Right.
Nothing's gonna happen. Like they don't have anything. So that's why I'm saying it's the end.
You guys reported to be cautious with Nikola. Good reporting. We've been saying that for quite a while.
Yeah.
GM was too eager. That's true, and made a huge mistake. Olda's Terra scooter will have a 400-kilometer range.
Is it the one with like the banana-like battery that goes into it? I think that's what he's talking about. Yeah, those scooters are crazy.
Yeah, we need to get a scooter like bike podcast going. There's so much interesting stuff in that area. As usual, you guys are right on. Thanks, Dave Soley. Yes, GM teaming up with Nikola is looking like that old dude that married Anna Nicole Smith. Well, to be fair, like that was probably a pretty
good move for
last year for both of them. She got a ton. Actually, I don't think she got a ton of money, but he certainly got a good last year, I think. All right, Martin Van Ninja Totten said yes. Nikola is done. Bar is done too. I don't know. Like I hate to like. I'm sure she's got like a lot of good things going for her, but what she's done with the electric stuff at GM has not been great. So if that's what needs to happen, then that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean she's dealing with this balance of like controlling this giant gas guzzling business that they have while getting a step in the future. And I think the only way you can do it is like full on. Like there's not this point, like if you're just or full on, and for GM that means like create another entity and have someone run that entity while whoever gets the job to just managing the decline of their gas business. Like good luck with that. But
spin it off or something.
Yeah,
like a 10-year thing. I mean, I think the plan is for GM is to make everything they have electric, but like, have an electric Corvette in 2014, 2024 or whatever. And then, all of a sudden all their cars are the same cars, but they're electric.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? You have like the likely next US president giving those big press conference, and he's talking about the electric Corvette that's coming and everything. And it's not even GM making it.
Right.
Like how like a massive opportunity you're missing there. You have Joe Biden, like him or not, like he has a giant platform right now, and he's talking about an electric Corvette, and it's not even GM making it. It's crazy.
I did talk to somebody who had a mid-drive Corvette, one of the new ones, And I was like, is that electric? Because I knew it wasn't electric, but I wanted him to know that
that is dumb that he does. You have a supercar that's not electric.
yeah.
I love that.
Like, so he's like, no, that one's coming in 2 years. And I was like, really? And he's like, well, first there's going to be a hybrid, and then there's going to be in like 2024.
And does he work for GM?
No, but he's got a mid-drive Corvette, which it seems like he's a pretty early adopter kind of guy. So maybe he knows something. Anyway, I'm not going to write a story about it.
Yeah, I'm not going to use that guy as a source.
No.
That guy you saw on the street.
Yeah. Don't look for accountability at GM. No one invests in that company. If there's shocked when $2 billion chunks of money evaporate quickly, that's unfortunate, but probably true. Last year during an earnings call, Elon talked about how much money was lost borrowing money for Model 3 production. Basically, it was a short-term loan to pay for parts and raw materials before the end user purchased the car. I vaguely remember Elon stating it was hundreds of millions of dollars for the quarter. Do you think that this last $5 billion raise was to cover cash flow for when Europe and Austin come online? This would save the company significant money in short-term loans. That's from Travis Cannon. That actually makes a lot of sense. They are going to ramp up like that, but
that's what we discussed, I think, last time. Like, the only real value, if you're not gonna use the money, you're just gonna sit on it, is that it's gonna give them a much better position for like short-term borrowing and things like that.
All right, Bad Monkey says Lucid, the most beautiful EV ever built. They set a new standard, king of EV.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
For now.
I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Some people love it, some people don't. I think it's nice, but maybe not the best. We'll see. Have we ever seen it go uphill? No. I'm assuming we're still talking about Trevor's thing. Panini pressed. Haha, that really made me laugh. That was a good one. I don't see the fuss about Nikola or Lucid. Neither company has actually produced anything besides hot air. I don't see Lucid lasting any longer than Faraday Future. We haven't talked about them in a while. But
I mean, I was as skeptical as anybody else, but I'm telling you right now, I think we're going to see Lucid in production, and I even think that we might see Faraday Future in production.
Yeah,
Faraday Future is like a cockroach; like, it's impossible to kill. Like,
keeps coming back in different
form. It keeps coming back, and I think now that they're going to come back with a car in low volume production that's going to be expensive, not that much different from Lucid, just different form factor and everything, and I'm excited for it.
All right, so John Mulford's not buying a Lucid until Joe Rogan does first.
With how much time it took to get Joe Rogan on board with the Tesla Model S, I don't think we have much chances with the Lucid. I think the next EV that Joe Rogan's going to buy is going to be the Tesla Roadster.
Sounds like it. Lucid presentations were all about luxury. Reminded me of the recent Cadillac presentations. Yeah, that's the market they're going for. I feel like Trevor Milton should be in jail, says Yachten. See how that goes. I don't wish anybody to be in jail, but
yeah, I want him to be in jail. But if it's found out that it was fraud, then you should give the money back for sure at the very least.
Lucid built a working prototype in factory. Not saying they're through all, but they've done everything serious so far. No sketchy BS, no IPO. Nikola is just pure vaporware.
Yeah, no IPO though. Like, I've been hearing those grumblings that they're gonna do an IPO soon. And
yeah, with this reverse IPO thing, you can just like
everyone is doing the reverse IPO right now. But I've been telling them, like, they haven't confirmed to me anything. They haven't confirmed that they're gonna doing an IPO, but I've been hearing this, and I told them, like, deliver a car before you do the IPO, please. Just show some revenue on the income statement, like, just.
And I think they're trying to do that because they could have already done.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I've been hearing things that.
They are beyond vaporware. This is they have been committing fraud. This is Nikola.
I hope so. I hope so. Nikola, not Lucid.
Yeah, the CEO of SPAC that made the Nikola stock fraud possible was a former big muckety muck at GM. Oh, interesting. Oh yeah, and that's there was a question on the call. Was that muckety muck the person who introduced Trevor and Mary Barra and facilitated the whole thing? And Mary Barra confirmed that, which, like, I don't know, not good. Nikola was set up as a fake until you make it. Fake it until you make it. That's actually a pretty good description.
Yeah, I agree.
At this point, I don't know if they even try. All right, we're getting pretty long in here.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find any good ones. Their hydrogen efficiency drops like a rock every year, charting mega stations. That's the other thing. Like, we have no infrastructure for hydrogen. Cycle through these. We did not get invites to Battery Day, even though we're both stockholders.
But did you? I didn't even apply, to be honest.
I applied.
Yeah, I had to apply for it. So yeah, I didn't. You did.
Yeah. It would be nice to go, but I don't even know if I want to fly to California for that.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna fly, so I didn't apply, and then the rest gonna be virtual. I'm just gonna watch it like everybody else.
Right. Where do you think the 17% better efficiency is coming from? Lucid versus Model 3, Model S? Yeah, there's some aerodynamics, as Richard says.
Smaller drive unit, much smaller drive unit, much lighter drive unit. The battery pack, and like they said, it was a little bit more efficient, but it's not really about the battery. It's more about the overall efficiency of the powertrain. And 900 volt too. They have a 924 volt system. You can be a higher voltage. You're going to be more efficient.
Yeah, you got smaller wires, all that stuff. What do you think about the increased delivery time of the S and X? Is it demand or something to do with the refresh, and they could announce on Battery Day? Didn't even know about that.
It matches the usual cycle of the delays and everything, so I wouldn't read too much into that. But at the same time, the natural cycle would match an update. So do what you want to do with that.
If Tesla could import a $30,000 Model 3 from China to the U.S., should they? Would they?
I don't think they can anyway. So it's not. The Chinese Model 3 is still more expensive than the U.S. Model 3 right now. So
yeah,
at least like as a sell price.
I wonder if their cheaper car that they're talking about building in China will be importable. Anyway, 2040, will humans even have physical bodies then? All right. Go autonomous cars or don't bother. All right. I think we're pretty close to the end here.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah. We appreciate all your comments. There was a lot of them today. Well, also, that's probably because we matched them with Facebook too. I'm going to try that. Maybe on Twitter next time to get even more crazier.
Let's see how crazy we can get.
Thanks a lot for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. That's help us a lot always to propagate the show. Subscribe for our next episode and also our videos on electric vehicles. I have the Porsche video that's finally coming soon. There was some problem with the video and I had to do some voiceover on it. So be on the lookout for that. And then on your podcast app, if you can give us a review. We tried to improve the audio. We know we had some problem with the audio last week. Hopefully it's going to be fixed this week. Sorry about that for our audio podcast listener. And that's about it. Thanks a lot for Electrify America, of course, for sponsoring the show. That help us the show going and growing. So thank you. We're going to see you same times next week. Have a good one, guys.